Okay, so part two it showed that that the Lydia Thorpe being in the Oppression Olympics cartoon in that particular manner had a much more complicated background, whereby Pauline Hanson was has a history of playing the race card and trying to claim that Lydia Thorpe was doing it. If you actually look at what Lydia Thorpe has done, it's been framed that way by people like Pauline Hanson to avoid engaging in a complex discussion that's required to resolve the political issues that that do relate to that. And also the point needs to be made that the issue with the misogyny speeches in the Australian Parliament House are independent of those other ethnicity and occupation related issues and treaty related issues and whatnot. And so with that, we're going to go further and show what, and potentially show why Pauline Hanson has completely inverted the argument, so as to cover up for her fear of being able to stand up for how she was discriminated against. Okay, so it begins, so we discussed Lydia Thorpe there. Lydia Thorpe did not play the race card. She was doing a political card, as it relates to the complexity, as it relates to, the idea of crown or whatever. Okay, or not crown. In fact, there's no crown, but well, that's it. Okay, you're not ready for how complicated that is, are you? Okay, maybe. Okay, so the next one was in the cartoon. The next one example was the disabled person getting a free ramp to go over the hurdle, and it's like, well, actually, that's a bit of a low blow. You cannot argue that somebody in a wheelchair is being given special treatment because they had a mobility access. I mean, if someone can't fucking walk and they're in a wheelchair, give them a fucking ramp. You absolutely should not be couching that particular idea in a sort of, it's just the Oppression Olympics and everyone's competing on how oppressed they freaking are, as though it was some kind of joke. Okay, people with disabilities, in fact, are sometimes are suffering enormously, depending on the nature of how their disability operates, and it actually took decades and decades and decades of effort for things like disability parking, ramps, or modifications to buses, so that people with wheelchairs could actually have wheelchair access to the bus or the train or whatever else. The NDIS only came out in about 2014, but it's still not accessible to everyone with disabilities. It's still continuously being used by people who are on aged care pensions, for example, and it seems to be more of for people who qualify for the disability support pension, and do require the assistance of the NDIS. It appears to be more difficult for some of those people to get the NDIS than somebody on the aged care pension. So those people on the aged care pension who require that regular care, it's not in dispute that they need it, but it's in dispute that the NDIS is the right thing for them. It goes back to the same title argument that younger people with disabilities get lumped into older people in the same category as the older people, and the older people benefit and the younger people don't. You can stick your fucking ramp argument up your fucking arseholes. Okay, even when they legislated for the NDIS in 2014, it wasn't available to everyone. They only just started to roll it out. You can also can your fucking argument about disability services societies actually providing support to people. The Multiple Sclerosis Society, for example, provides absolutely no support to people with MS. You can live within 2 kilometres of their head office and still not have access to a social worker or support in that particular capacity. They're still relying on Christian charities, and of course, you might have years, if not decades, of travelling around with no NDIS and no mobility aids, having to recover on your own, with support, of course, from any friends that you might encounter along the way, and only when they think that you're a complete fucking whack job, and you've had your 20th homicide attempt on you, or potential homicide attempt on you, then maybe, just maybe, at that point, you might get one of the Christian charities to give you mental health support. So that's what happens to people with multiple sclerosis. They get no support at all. Okay, none. Okay, not even from the neurologist. Okay, they just read a radiologist report for 10 minutes once every 6 months if you're lucky to get the MRI, and that's it. They do nothing with it. Okay, and the patients know more than the fucking doctors. The patients know more than the doctors on that subject. So if you think that the NDIS is being milked by people who are faking disabilities, and there's some kind of ramp situation where that's some kind of disability oppression Olympics fucking card, okay, then you're a rude person. Okay, you're rude. You're rude. There have been people in Australia, as a consequence of the Tony Abbott and Joe Hockey changes, also in 2014, to the budget. And by the way, the rollout of NDIS in 2014, as it was a consequence of the Gillard administration, actually, but what followed from that was Hockey and Abbott making changes to the DSP, so that people on DSP who were dying of cancer, or people would otherwise be eligible for DSP at that time, if they were dying of cancer, they could not get the DSP. And that outraged a lot of people. So we don't know if that's changed or not. So we see that sort of conservative dog whistling that Pauline Hanson has done in that video. It's like she's got no respect. She's got no respect for Aboriginal people. She's got no respect for people with disabilities. She hasn't actually comprehended the issues at all. And then she goes into the cartoon then goes into some rant about how the men are oppressed, and they don't get to compete at the oppression Olympics, and they're jealous, so they're going to take gender fluid. Well, we'll get into the subject of male oppression